and one of them brings what looks like a fragment of the golem. The monocle man notices there's mana lingering in the air, meaning someone cast magic strong enough to leave behind that kind of trace. He follows the trail, sensing the mana pooling in a corner, and asks who used to live there. Someone explains it was the orphans and street kids. He's surprised, saying they must have been hiding there to avoid the war. But he refuses to believe some random orphan could have used a spell like that. Suddenly, he starts ranting, wondering how anyone could comprehend one of the countless, endless magical combinations that exist in the world. To him, it's impossible. So he concludes another mage must have come from a different region to destroy the golem. His men are ordered to find the intruder, while he himself will keep watch in case such a person really exists. Because if an orphan managed to do this, he could become an archmage the world has never seen. Meanwhile, Ray arrives in Sector 49. We see a flashback of a conversation with Niles, who once said that Sector 42 looked much the same. The big difference was that the streets were wider and the buildings taller. Beyond that, everything was similar. You had to descend much further into the sectors before seeing a dramatic change. Now Ray stands at the entrance of 49, realizing the place really is massive. Walking through, he sees kids scavenging trash and wonders where the golems are, or if they only exist back in 50. He strolls through the city, hearing people talk about mining, cooking, and drinking. He notices he's on 36th Street, which seems to mean this place has twice as many streets. Right now, the important thing is to gather information about magic, especially about the mana vessel and those rings he saw. Of course, he also needs to learn about prism colors and, hardest of all, figure out how to get some money. He still has what Humphrey gave him, but he doesn't know how long this journey will last. And at that moment, he comes face to face with Veronica's bookstore. But Ray has no idea what a bookstore even is. In the past, we see that it was Niles who taught him how to speak and write, but only in the most basic, rough way. He knows enough to communicate, but bookstore is way beyond what the boy can grasp. He steps inside and realizes the place is full of squares with letters inside them. Then suddenly, a girl appears from an upstairs window, shouting that the bastard breaking things to steal books is back again. She tells him to get out right now and demands to know why he's robbing. Ray only understands that whatever's being stored here, it must be this thing called a book. While she keeps yelling, saying she won't repeat herself, he notices her aura shifting, red for excitement, yellow for joy, then discomfort, irritation, and anger. He wonders how it's even possible for someone to feel all that at once. The girl warns him to move aside because the adults are coming down and they'll finish him off. He just replies that she's weird. That only makes her angrier, and she snaps that her grandfather will deal with him soon enough. Ray decides to ignore the crazy girl and keeps walking through the city. As usual, there are eyes on him. He notices those people are watching carefully, cautious. Obviously, he's a stranger in these streets and drawing attention, so he knows it's best not to provoke anyone. After all, this place isn't much different from Sector 50. Back at the card, he spent the whole day wandering through the city but hasn't learned a single thing about magic. Tomorrow, they'll have to search in other areas. Just then, he hears something strange. The guys nearby are preparing for something, and Ray already guesses what's about to happen. This time, there are 4 of them, leaning against the car. The one in the blue hood asks if they should kill him. Another says no, or the kid will scream, while another insists they need the key. They decide it's time to act when suddenly something smashes through the window and slams one of them in the face. He falls on his back, everyone's confused, and Ray jumps out of the car. When another tries to react, Ray drives a strike straight into his chest. One more drops to the ground. The last one tries to attack from behind, swinging, but what the hell? Ray calmly catches it with his hand and tosses it aside. Somehow, he's spinning the guy by the collar and beating him down. By the end of it, they're all sprawled out. Ray asks how many streets they control in this area. One of them hesitates, almost gets his ear torn off, then blurts that they control 3. Ray demands which ones. The man says 25 and 23, but Ray sees his nervousness, uncertainty, and fear and knows he's lying. He stomps on the man's hand and orders him to tell the truth or he'll get beaten too. Brutal. Blood splatters everywhere as he turns to the next guy, telling him it's his turn to answer. That one, clearly panicking, spills that they control 14 streets with 52 members total. Their leader is someone named Kendrick, and their base is in the middle of an abandoned place. Ray tells him to lift his head, asks his name, and he answers Neshu. The boy then wants to know what orders their leader gave. Neshu explains the order was to beat Ray nearly to death, then steal his food and anything else he had, and that Kendrick himself would be watching. Right then, Kendrick leaps from atop the car, aiming to stab Ray, but Ray responds that he already knew someone was observing him. A wind spreads around him, the man doesn't understand, and Ray slams him twice, in the face and chest. The guy crashes to the ground. Ray leans over and orders him to warn his leader that he's not the only one watching everything. Later, back on the streets, Ray realizes that just like in Sector 50, in 49 almost nobody knows anything about magic. He's also figured out that this thing called a book is just pages of paper with information written on them. And considering that's exactly what he needs most, maybe this bookstore really is worth it. It's right then that 3 guys show up in front of him and tell him to come with them. They're not there to fight, so he can relax. Ray just asks if they're friends of those kids from yesterday, and they say yes. He beat 3 of their members nearly to death, which is why the boss seems interested in him. Looks like the kid can really fight. One of them pulls out a sheet of paper and says there's a message, but none of the 3 can read, so they're stuck figuring out how to deliver it. Ray snatches it from their hand, and they're shocked that he can actually read. Street kids aren't supposed to know that. The note invites Ray to work for their boss, promising he'd never go hungry again. The trio asks what it says, but Ray just wants to know how the leader is chosen. They explain it's through fighting. Whoever's strongest becomes the leader. Right away, Ray tells them to take him there. Obviously, he wants to meet this leader, who's definitely getting a beating. They arrive at Kendrick's abandoned factory. One boy in front says just to go inside. They walk through some corridors until they reach the back, where a fire burns and a bunch of kids are gathered. The one sitting in the chair stands, saying now he knows who this is. He introduces himself as Kendrick, adding that Ray doesn't look too bad in a fight, but he's still going to get beaten, no doubt. Or maybe not, because for the first time, Ray sees something he's never seen before: mana spilling out of trash. But never in his life has he seen such an absurd amount coming from a single item. Kendrick tells him to sit down, saying he didn't call them here to be an enemy. Still, there are plenty of kids standing around staring. The protagonist notices that for his age, Kendrick is surprisingly skilled at displaying his power. Kendrick asks where Ray came from. He's never seen him on this street, but hears he arrived by car. When Ray enters Sector 50, the whole place gasps. Apparently, no one has ever seen someone come out of that sector alive. Everyone mutters that it's way too far, until the leader orders them to shut up. He then says if Ray's telling the truth, it's incredible. He's qualified to be in this organization. Ray doesn't get what he means, so Kendrick explains they're planning to join a real organization. The plan is to become part of Merc Red, a well-known group from Sector 45. They have an agreement. Once Kendrick's gang reaches 66 members, they'll be allowed in. He asks if Ray isn't interested. This could be the perfect chance to raise his status. Ray replies that it's an interesting story and joining a group wouldn't be bad, but he refuses to work under anyone weaker than him. Kendrick doesn't like that and asks if Ray is implying that he's weaker. Ray shrugs it off, saying that in Sector 50, leaders were chosen by strength, not talk. Immediately, one of the gang members charges to hit Ray, but Kendrick grabs him by the neck and tells him to shut up. He doesn't like being interrupted. At that moment, Ray notices Kendrick seems to be using some kind of strengthening magic, but it's not his own power. It's the ring he's wearing that's radiating mana. Ray watches, unimpressed, as Kendrick beats the boy down. He figures he might actually be able to break that ring. Suddenly, Kendrick drops the kid on the floor and apologizes, saying he just got a little stressed. But Ray notices more than just the boost in strength. The ring also warped Kendrick's emotions. Ray steps forward, telling them to continue this nonsense about him being weaker. He flatly agrees Kendrick is weaker, and in an instant, something slices through the air, nearly hitting his head, as Kendrick orders him to repeat that. He turns to his allies, asking what they think. Terrified, they stammer out that of course he's stronger than this boy. What the protagonist notices is that the ring reacts to Kendrick's emotions, and more than that, it seems Kendrick himself has no idea what the ring is actually doing for him. Kendrick cracks his neck and says fine. If the kid wants to see his strength, then so be it. Ray answers that yes, they should fight for the leader's position, and if he loses, he'll work under Kendrick. But Kendrick says the fight will happen in a week, when everyone is watching. Ray points out that everyone's already here. Then Kendrick explains he wants the other gangs to be present too, so everyone will know without a doubt who is stronger. Ray agrees, then asks where he got that ring. Kendrick just says he'll find out the day he loses, but unfortunately for him, that day isn't coming. The next morning, Ray is still wondering what that ring is all about when he suddenly feels something approaching and spins, grabbing a stone. One boy demands to know who gave him permission to walk around here. Others show up, saying he must have lost his mind. He shouldn't even dream of wandering through this place. They're about to say more when Ray cuts them off, telling them to shut up and fight already. And soon enough, they're all lying beaten on the ground. Just like in Sector 50, it doesn't matter where he goes, people love to pick fights. Probably because they know he's going to fight Kendrick. But he notices Kendrick's own crew doesn't attack him. That rule doesn't apply to the other gangs though, who don't want some outsider walking around freely. For Ray, it makes no difference. Everything's going according to plan. The more he uses his magic, the stronger it gets. These fights are giving him the experience he needs to cast faster and with less energy. Then speaking into the empty air, he asks how long this person plans on just watching. That's when a boy in a beret steps out, commenting on Ray's gray hair and expressionless face, asking if he's the so-called hunter. Ray finds it odd. This kid looks weaker and smaller than everyone else, yet he walks around confidently. He assumes the boy came to fight and tells him to take off those glasses before they're covered in blood. But the kid tells him to calm down, saying he's not here to fight anyone. And really, how could he fight with such a scrawny body? Ray asks what he wants then. The boy hesitates for a second, then introduces himself as Philip, someone who has an offer for him. Everyone in this story always has an offer for the protagonist to obey. Apparently, Ray agrees because Philip starts leading him toward what looks like a dump. Along the way, he mentions that he's heard plenty of rumors about the boy. Everywhere he goes, people are talking about him. Turns out this name, Hunter, is a nickname he earned after beating up half the city. Ray thought people were mistaking him for someone else.